Present. Arms.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Arms. Outward. Face. Forward. March.
Thank you. First, we'd like to thank and welcome all our visitors. And next, we do have comments from the public. And we want to make sure, we want to welcome you and welcome all your comments that you bring, and want you to make sure that you be aware, that you be courteous, kind, respectful. Remember, this is a board meeting in the public, not with the board. Okay, this is just a board meeting in the public, but you're not having a conversation with the board. So, who do we have first?
Sure. Mr. David Jones.
And you have 3 minutes, please, sir.
My name is David Jones. I'm a teacher at Joliet Central, and I have been since 94-95 school year. I have one of my students who sits on the board. I'm here today, and I would like for the board to reconsider the language in the dress code language that's presented today, and I would like you to vote against that. And I brought some props. So when I come into school in the morning, I really have a pretty sad life. I go from my car to the school and then back to my car and then into the house. So occasionally I'll leave the house and not realize it's raining, and so I have a hat in my car. And so a hat, like other things, is a tool. And so I wear this to keep water off of my face, or snow, or the sun if it's a bright sunny day. I brought another type of hat with me as well. It's in the pocket of this sweatshirt. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's called a stocking cap, and a stocking cap is used as a tool, again, to keep your head and ears warm, right? And so I keep this in my car too, in case it's colder than I thought and forgot to wear a coat. I keep this in my car as well. This is called a sweatshirt, and it has a hood on the top of it. And I know the language in the contract today that you're going to, not the contract, but in the dress code that you're going to talk about today, describes the ability for students to wear both hats and hoods, or both, one or the other, or both. My opposition is this: one, that these are things that I wear outside, and I believe that's where they should be worn. The hood especially, and I do understand that this is, I have a son, this is the winter coat. I can count on this hand how many times I've seen a child with a coat on. And so they do wear these hoodies. I don't like to call them hoodies. But they have the hood on them, and so the hood covers the ears, and this would be a tool again to keep the air, the cold, the snow off of your ears. The other prop that I brought with me are earbuds and a phone. And so when you combine the hood, the earbuds, and the phone, you have a disguise, and that is, I am paying attention, or am I listening to music? And a lot of times students aren't paying attention, they're doing other things, they're listening to music. Also, you're wearing a hood and a hat and sunglasses, which I saw today in the hallway. I saw 2 students walking down the hallway with a hood, a hat, and sunglasses, which to me is otherwise known as a disguise. And so I would like to not be here next year to discuss whether or not students should be allowed to wear sunglasses in the hallway. because the only explanation I've heard as to why this shouldn't be happening is because we're tired of fighting the fight. I'm a teacher, I represent the union, we met yesterday, we talked about this, not a single teacher agreed that wearing hats, hoods is good. And so I think that's probably more than 3 minutes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion to, on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stiff,
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mr. Edmond,
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn, Mrs. Guerrero Numer,
Yes.
Mr. Bean,
Yes.
Mr. Coffey.
Yes.
I see that we don't have any recognition or awards, correct?
Not this evening.
So we can move next to item 7, which is the superintendent report.
Thank you. No correspondence or legislative report, but we have our annual staffing presentation for next year, and then there'll be an associated action item after that. So Mrs. McDonald will do the staffing presentation, and I just want to say thank you to Mrs. McDonald, Mr. Narducci, and Mr. Villaflor for their hard work, along with our counselors and guidance staff with getting those course requests in, because it's a lot of work to get to this point. And so, but this is really what helps us determine what our needs are for next year.
Thank you, Dr. Guzman. Thank you, board. And I was going to say thank you to all our counselors. And just to recognize all the work that's been put into this brief presentation. It actually starts in the fall with our course offering guide and our counselors and all those individual meetings that we have with our students, with our teachers having with our students, counselors. So this is a compilation of all that work. So I want to start off with just where we are with our enrollment. As you can see, we are showing since the 10-11 school year, we've seen a gradual increase in our enrollment. We're feeling it in our buildings, and we're seeing our programs grow. So again, as I report out with fall housing and the 10-day counts, we've seen gradual increases in our enrollment and more so shifts in the different needs of our students. So I'm going to start off with the request for next school year, so referencing the 23-24 school year. I want to point out that as a district, we've added over almost 50 FTE since the 18-19 school year. So we've added a lot of supports in the classroom, outside the classroom for our students. I want to point out that for the 23-24 school year, we are asking for 456.5 FTE. That reflects to full-time equivalency for our district to ensure that all our students' needs are being met. Pointing out also from the 22-23 school year, there are two numbers. So in March of last year, I came to the board and I asked for 445.2 FTE. And then we had to come back in May to make an adjustment for the cool-down room to be staffed with social workers. And then we came back in November to add for additional special ed and EL FTE because of the growing need at our campuses. So for next school year, the difference between last year and this year is an additional 8.7 FTE, and you could see it broken down by each of our respective campuses. The next couple slides, I'll be going over into our actual retirements, projected retirements, and then what are the FTE per our specific groups. So for next school year, we're expecting 4 teachers to retire. And the reason why this is in part of our presentation, it tells you it's a projection of how many potential positions that we may have to hire for. And just letting you know, when we do go into staffing, the smaller number of potential retirements makes it more difficult to work with a puzzle for 6,800 students. So when we have less retirements, it's very difficult to put that puzzle together, and making sure that, that we're able to fill all those needs for our kids. So the next couple slides, we'll be going over the different groups, and if you notice on the bottom right-hand side, it'll say request for FTE. So I'll start off with our administrators and supervisors. We currently have 39 administrators district-wide and 9 supervisors district-wide. We are not asking for additional FTE in this group area. In regards to paraprofessionals, we have a total of 122 FTE approved by the district. Right now, we have 44 security staff. We still have 3 unfilled positions in regards to security at our campuses as of March 2023. For paraprofessional in our special ed classrooms, we have 62 working with our instructional students at the different levels, and we still have 10 open positions for this area. So we're understaffed in our paraprofessionals in our special ed classrooms. In regards to our building level paraprofessionals, these are our specialized parapros. We have 1 open position for detention at Central. Again, we're not asking for any additional FTE. We're just asking to fill the open spots that we do have. In regards to office staff, we do not have any office staff open positions, and we're not asking for any additional FTE. We also have non-bargaining office staff at the district office that work in the specific areas, and there is no request for additional FTE. Buildings and grounds, we do have 4 open positions in buildings and grounds. 3 of them are heating operators, 2 at Central, 1 at West, and maintenance mechanic at West. So we are understaffed in buildings and grounds as of March. Cafeteria, there's no request for additional FTE, and we do not have any open positions. Transportation, we have 30 open bus driver positions right now. So this is an area that we're very much understaffed, and we would be glad to hire additional bus drivers. Technology, we just actually finished filling this team, so we have a fully staffed technology team, and we are not requesting for additional FTE for next school year. And then these unique positions that we continue to add, I want to say that we have 1 unfilled family engagement liaison, but hopefully we'll be bringing something to the board next month. I've been hearing that. We do have an unfilled ISS position at West and 2 open cafeteria monitor positions at West and Pathways. So those are all the people that make this district go. So what I'm going to go into next is based on the people that I just mentioned, all those FTE district-wide, this is what we're able to do in regards to supporting our students. And I'm just going to read through these so that people could hear, like, because we do a lot for our community. So we offer a freshman academy. We have an extended day for our freshmen. We offer college and career pathways. Our students can take classes at JJC under dual enrollment. They can earn college credit through dual credit. We have advanced placement classes. We offer one-to-one technology in all our classrooms. We have instructional coaches, instructional technologists, math interventionists. We offer support to our students in literacy and in math. And this year we have offered learning labs for our students that don't receive supports. We offer co-teaching for our special ed students. That means that there is a regular teacher and special ed teacher in a classroom supporting all the students in the class. We offer credit recovery in the spring and the winter, in the summer, and we offer 9th grade gap. We have Gateway 1.0. We have early release for our seniors who have met graduation requirements. We have IEP managers, transition center, transition coordinator, our Pathways campus, and programs that we run there. We have Gateway to Graduation 2.0. We've expanded our EL program, and this is the first year where we have, going into next year, we'll have co-taught English 1 through 4 for freshmen through seniors. We've trained now several cohorts of teachers on SIOP the ILET program for our reading program for our bilingual students, and we're adding another USF cohort for the EL bilingual endorsement. We have our new curriculum with math, Catalyst program for this year, substance abuse clinician, and detention supervision and paraprofessionals. I know I didn't capture everything, but those are the big initiatives that is supported by all the people that work in this district. And things new for next year, we'll be adding a college and career specialist at each campus. They'll be board approved today as the board takes action. A social worker at our AVAC transition center, a deaf and hard of hearing itinerant as a district position, accelerated placement for the class of 2027, pre-AP for all ninth graders, our amped on algebra, which is running at both campuses this next year, so we're excited about that. Stipend positions for our teachers working in learning labs and AVID advisories. So that's just again a little bit of what we're doing and what we will be doing with the FTE that the board has given to the district. So now I'm going to go into the process of staffing, and through that process we talk about classes, what should run, what should not run. Any class that it has less than 20 students that have selected the course during course selection, we have a conversation and we decide should it run or should it not. So the classes I'll go through, I'll point out if they're running or not. So if you look, here's an example. So these are low enrollment classes that are going to run at Joliet Central. So it says the class name, and then the number in parentheses is the number that at staffing, 16 students. So for example, AP Studio Art, 16 students selected that class. So you can see a lot of the classes that we're running running, even though they're low enrollment, are those capstone classes that are specialty within our fine arts program, and also classes that if I'm a senior, like this is like a culminating class for me. And we're excited to share also some of these classes we didn't run last year at Joliet Central, and we are running this year into next school year. And these are the low enrollment courses that we're running at Joliet West. Again, you can see they're very similar. They're tied to our specialty programs with music, with arts, that AP Spanish, literature and culture. Some of our students come in taking Spanish 3 or 2, so it's Spanish 2, Spanish 3, and then they take the first AP class and then the second. So we want to make sure that we have a sequence in classes available for our students. French 3 and 4, there's 14 students, so we combine French 3 and 4 together as a class, and we get it to run with 14 students. Now, these are the classes that will not run. So we had conversations with the schedulers, Mr. Villafore, Mr. Narducci, as well as the principals. Again, my challenge to the buildings next year is let's get AP Computer Science A to run at both campuses. We're close. This is a great class. We know that, coding and anything with like informational technology is a high market area. So I would challenge us to get that to run. Again, in a few classes that we just didn't have enough student interest. Go ahead, you can ask a question.
Sure. So with our students being so technically savvy, I'm surprised that this number is really low. Are the counselors pushing these classes? Because I'll tell you, my son is a junior and he didn't have a clue about this class until he got a new counselor.
We actually had a conversation with the business team last week on our SIP day, and informational technology falls within their pathway. We do have a lot of students taking AP Computer Science Principles, which is the first class, but they don't go into AP Computer Science A, and we're not sure. So that is one of the things that we're going to work on for next year, to find out where those students go and what classes they actually take. Again, and then this is low enrollment classes that don't run at Joliet Central. Again, in the requests were very low, and same with West Campus. So what I'm going into next are the postings. So based on staffing, then we come up with recommended postings for this school year. based on our current, what we have with our staff and what are our gaps, so then we post our gaps. Some of these positions have already been posted, but just to reference, so we do have 2 dean positions posted, one at Central Campus, one at West. The College and Career Readiness Specialist, that's in the packet right now. Deaf and hard of hearing itinerant, AVAC transition social worker, and our central social worker. These are the postings related to our classrooms, so we need, and these can change because as we hire in one area, it could impact other areas. So right now, we need 3 FTE for English, 2 FTE in math, which are in the board packet today, business education, 2 FTE, industrial tech, 1, fax, 1, health occupations, 1, social science, 2, with a high need in bilingual, world language, 3, and special ed, 5. And I want to point out that special education is a high need for next school year. We've seen an increase of students, incoming freshmen that are coming in, but they're at the instructional level. So when we do staffing, it's the class size is a lot smaller than a COTA classroom, so we have to make sure we meet our students' needs. So that is the increase in our special education FTE.
Diane, can I just add, this is what we know of right now. You know, there may be resignations or things like that, not made. There will be things that occur, and as we get those, then we'll be posting those as we receive, you know, that. And I say that because, you know, somebody talked to me today about leaving for another opportunity, and so this does change from this point going forward, but it's not due to staffing, it's due to resignations or shifts and transfers.
And then the 2 current administrative postings that we have right now is the curriculum director for science and applied life, and that's in this board packet, and then the West assistant principal. So, and then we end with our projected certified retirements. You can see in the 24-25 school year, we're projecting 9 teachers right now that will be retiring. So that will be potentially a large, that will be a large pool for us to work with. But then it goes down again. So it's waves and valleys in regards to when a lot of teachers retire and don't. So the 24-25 school year will be a big year of teacher retirements. Questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes superintendent reports.
Okay. Thank you, Superintendent. So we'll go to our action items. A, 2022 through 23, staffing recommendations. Can I get a motion to approve? So moved. Roll call. Questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Guerrero Numer?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Edmund?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
2023, B, 2023 summer hours. Motion to approve. So moved.
Second.
Questions? Roll call, please.
I do have a, so I recognize that you, on some of the days, you all will be working 12 hours?
Yes, so this has been in effect for a while now. At one point, we would just shift the days of that week, and we would work the 4 days that weren't the holiday. And staff said they would rather have the option to work the 12-hour day or take vacation and not have like the extra day. So this is what we've been doing, I want to say, for probably 10 or 15 years now. We're not open though past 5 o'clock. So the office is closed in case staff want to take off, but they can still work if they do not want to use vacation time for that if they're 12 months. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero Numer?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Edmund?
Yes. 2023 through 2024 Board Education meeting dates. Can I get-
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Roll call.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero Numer?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
D, May 2nd, 2023, special board meeting. Can a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Questions?
I just want to make a comment that it's coming to the board for approval because that's dictated by policy, that it be determined at the March meeting when the reorganization meeting occurs. And it has to occur 21 days after the election and before 40 days. So this is the proposed date.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero Numer?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
E, IHSA membership renewal. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
So,
Second.
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 Questions? Comments? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero Numer?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
FP, professional services agreement between human and pediatric therapy and Joliet Township High School. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero Numer?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Agreement between Shrub Oak International School and Joliet Township High School. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Abstain.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero Numer?
Yes. H, agreement between Joliet Township High School and District 204 and Embrace. Can I get a motion to approve?
Oh, so moved.
Second. Question or comments? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Guerrero Numer?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
I, amend 2023 through 2024 school calendar. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Question or comments?
I just want to say thank you to Ms. Emily Petronio from our teachers union for co-facilitating the school improvement committee with me. We met 2 times with our group and had great conversations, and we're bringing forward no changes to our SIP day structure. They feel that it's working very well. The feedback from our teachers is appreciative of having job-embedded professional development, so it's most appreciated and it's most needed. So the recommendation is I mapped out 5 school improvement days for first semester and I think 6 for second semester, avoiding holidays and just busy weeks. So that is the memo that I'm submitting to board.
And additionally, on the calendar is also the parent-teacher conference dates for next year that would follow the same schedule as we've had this year. So at this point, then, upon approval, the calendar would be finalized.
Any other comments?
Actually, yeah, speaking of the parent-teacher conferences, I know a survey was going out, I saw that. Are you gonna share that in our next meeting, the results, or how long would that take to?
We can pull that together for you.
Okay, yeah, I'd be interested to see how that went.
Any other comments? Now, roll call, please.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero Numer?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes. J, 2020 through 2024 student fees and refund schedule.
So moved.
Second.
Comments, questions?
Yes, this is the recommendation from the administration to have no increase to the student fee and refund schedule for the 23-24 school year. And a process we started about a year, almost 2 years now, was to have it where if a student is free and reduced, the summer school fee will be waived for that year.
I'm very thankful for that, this process. It gives all our children an opportunity.
And we will provide transportation again this summer.
Equity is very much appreciative, so I'm thankful to always hearing that. Any other comments, questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero-Numer?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Okay, request for disposal. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero-Numer?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
L, resolution authorizing preparation for the 2023-2024 budget. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Question or comments?
Yes, each year the Board of Education must appoint the superintendent and/or his or designee to prepare the budget for the next fiscal year. This is the resolution recommended for approval.
You're not gonna do it this year?
Huh?
We'll work collaboratively on it.
Any other comments? Questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero-Numer?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
I vote yes, too.
Interesting. M, revised tax abatement for Blue Ribbon Products Company. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Question or comment?
Yeah, so in October of 2016, the board approved a 5-year tax abatement with Blue Ribbon Products Company. The first abatement was to occur in 2017. However, the building was not fully assessed, and the first abatement did not occur until 2018. So as a result, 2021 should have been the last year, but it's been pushed to 2022. So we worked with the attorneys to draft the revised tax abatement for Blue Ribbon Products for the 2022 tax abatement. And that would close out the 5-year agreement.
Any other comments, questions? Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero-Numer?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
N, T&I building exterior wall repairs, work recommendation. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Any questions or comments?
Yes, this is the first phase to some much-needed renovations to the T&I building. This is more around the structural repairs and precast of the exterior. The next summer, we will get more into the, what we call the envelope, the windows, and potentially some other recommendations that may come out of the master facilities plan in relation to renovating and upgrading the T&I building.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero Namir?
Yes.
Oh, dairy products bid recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Just that we're recommending Cloverleaf for a 3-year contract for dairy products for the school district.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Guerrero Namir?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Sorry, I was being distracted.
It's okay.
Discipline Advisory Committee recommendation, second reading of the policy. The very first one, right? And, A, 7-190E, behavioral guidelines. Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments?
This was just basic updates, correct?
Right. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero Namir?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes. B, so 7:200 suspension procedure. Motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Question or comments?
This was updated language to reflect, added language that when possible, parents will be notified about an assignment to ISS.
So I have a question about when possible. What exactly does when possible mean?
So that was based on the lawyer's recommendation that because students would still stay within the school, that when possible, notify a parent before you take them to ISS, but in some instances, it might not be possible to notify the parent before they're in ISS, so that's why the lawyer recommended when possible.
So do we always notify at some point if they've received ISS? Okay.
Yeah, just when possible, the way I read it, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's when possible before they go.
So the when possible is a timing thing, but we always notify.
Yes, because the consequence is always
Okay.
notified.
Okay, okay.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect, thank you.
We satisfied. Roll call, please.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero Namir?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
C, 7-210 expulsion procedure. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Questions or comments?
This includes updated language to reflect district practice of always utilizing a hearing officer for student discipline cases, which is already the practice.
No questions or comments, right? Roll call, please.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero Namir?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
2, approval of recommended dress code change. Can I get a motion to approve? So, can I have discussion?
So I'm concerned about the way it's written. We've heard from teachers. I've talked to a few teachers. I think it's publicly known that I support kids being able to wear hats and headwear because of the climate and culture within the buildings. But hearing from the teacher, we heard Mr. Jones today, I've spoken to a few other teachers, and the problems that it could potentially create, and the enforceability with the way that it's written. I'm not sure that I'm comfortable with it as it sits here today. That being said, we need to do something about the culture in the mornings, in the cackle of take off the hat, take off the hood, put on your ID. And I don't know what that answer is.
I'm against hat and hoodies or any type of head covering at all. As a teacher, school does allow it. Sometimes the kid wears a mask, because some kids still wear masks, and they wear a hoodie. You really don't even know what they look like much. The other day I just commented, I'm like, oh, I didn't know you had long hair, because he had, one time he didn't have his hood on. Also, I think it's a safety issue. When you're recording, playing videos and taking pictures, it obstructs the line of sight, and you can't identify who kids are when their heads are covered. So next we're going to be seeing, can we identify this by this kid's clothing? And I think it's a safety concern, and I don't think it should be allowed. It's also an educational concern of the hiding the earbuds and things like that. It's a constant distraction of having earbuds. You have no idea if they're in their ear. Are they learning? Sometimes you don't even notice that they're in their ear to 15 minutes into class because you happen to glance at their ear through the hood. You get a little glance. I don't see any purpose of having it in there in an educational setting.
Any other comments?
I agree with also what Dan said. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody that put work in on that. That was a lot of work, and it's been a long time. And I can't imagine being on that committee. You come to us, we agree, we disagree, we go back, and you come back. So I want to say thank you, and I want to apologize also. It did feel that, when we have these committees, that they are encompassing more of the mindset of what our teachers and our staff are thinking, I feel like. So Mr. Jones, thank you for letting us know also what happened at your meeting and how all of the teachers agreed they did not like people wearing hats and hoodies in their classrooms. And we've heard that individually here and there, but to hear that a room full of teachers did not agree, that's a big deal. I personally, because of culture and climate, when I think about the children that are specifically called out for wearing hats and hoodies, sometimes when I think of kids that have hair that's not so great, or, legit, when I think of poverty and things like that, that's where my mind goes to automatically. But safety is also, of course, extremely important, and it has to come first. For anybody to learn, we have to have safety. So thank you for sharing that today. And again, this is really hard for us. We want to be respectful of all of our children and their culture and where they're coming from and what's going on in their lives. So, yeah, right now I feel like we can't go along with hats and hoodies if that's what our teacher and staff are saying as far as safety.
I just think that the school is a foundational, professional starting ground for our children. This is where we train them for the future once they leave here. So we have to set some type of standard to making sure that everything that they want is not going to always be what they're going to get when they get into the real world. You're going to have to follow rules and things, regulations, and various things that are going to come up for your employment. So I think that this is a tremendous time for us to let our children and our students rather know that this is what happens sometimes when rules have to be followed. So that's my opinion on this, and Mr. Jones said it very well. The majority of the time that I've seen hats worn was outside, not in a professional setting. The only time you do wear it is if you have that dress code that allows you to wear that particular uniform. So I think that if we have it in the handbook, that this is what we should do, then that's what we should do. It shouldn't be back and forth negotiating on it. We just don't think that that should be where this should be. That's me talking. I don't think it will hurt for our students not to have their hat on, not to have their hoodie on. The other thing that I was really, and I'm just going to say this, I was just really wondering, how did this build relationships? I've never heard anyone say to me, come to me and say, this makes us have a better relationship because I'll get to wear my hoodie and my hat and my sunglasses, my earplugs, and everything else. That stops me from learning. I never heard any students say, this stops me from learning because I don't have this. I've even asked for data to tell me, when we first tried to do this and we had struggles with this, what did the data say? Because we're a school of data. When we allowed all those, if we was going to allow all these hats and everything else, would everybody's grades go up? Or once we allowed all the phones, did the grades go down? I bet you if we really researched this, a lot of this went down when we started allowing things to happen that way. So I'd like to have a roll call, please, unless you have comments.
I just want to reiterate, I am very concerned about the arrival at school, in the culture, in the buildings at arrival at school. And I'd really like for us to take a hard look at how to make that more pleasant. Because if I walked in, even if I was following the rules and hearing that at my job, I would start off as in a bad mindset.
Well,
And
I think that's professional development that probably needs to happen within the school culture.
I think there's a real problem, though. I just don't want to ignore the fact that somehow there's a problem enforcing it, that teachers and staff feel like it's still a burden. And I don't know if that the discipline for wearing hats is not stiff enough. I don't know what it is, and I do realize that if we're not enforcing that equitably, it could be an issue, right? Where some kids have to take it off and others don't. And I really, without having a clear explanation, I think that's why this was brought up again, right? Because I sat here and voted for it, and I said then, I'm voting because you guys are guaranteeing me you can enforce this, you can implement this. And here we are a year later saying it's an unsafe deal, but are we going to enforce it in the hallways? I can't remember the teacher's name, I'm sorry, but he said today he saw a person wearing a hat and sunglasses, right? So kids are still getting away with it. Which kids are getting disciplined for it? And what's the disciplinary action that they feel like they can come back to school the next day and do it? We have to, if we're gonna put these things in handbooks, right, we gotta be enforcing them in the school, or it will become something that she gets to do it, he doesn't, right? And we can't have that, especially in the district that's diverse. And that's my issue. I'm all for safety and security. Don't think it's really a cultural thing. I don't think it's gang related and any of that anymore. But if we're going to do this, we have to enforce, because I don't want to be a year later still talking about this thing or whatever.
I just want to remind everyone, the discipline committee is a is a board-directed committee on an annual basis, and it's teachers, it's students, it's parents, and so it's everybody, and it was a small number, I mean, and so anybody can be part of the committee. So I can't guarantee that this recommendation won't come forth in the future, depending on who joins the committee, and such, and so this is just something that is, again, we have to do on a regular basis, and it's a good thing to do on a regular basis, is look at it. But, you know, clear, and I'm thankful to Mr. Jones for sharing that information, you know, and it's okay, students can feel a different way. And students do feel a different way, and so that's part of where the recommendation comes from. So this might be something that the board is talking about on an annual basis. And we'll obviously, whatever is determined, we're gonna enforce, and we try and get better at things each year.
So I would like to say that I believe when these committees are discussing these types of things, that they have data to determine the direction that they're going in. We can't just have things come to us willy-nilly just because kids feel like they want to wear their hats. Like, we need data to support this, to go into policy. This is policy. And so we need the data to support, okay, the academics are not decreasing because kids can wear hats and hoodies and sunglasses and still learn. Like, and
We can ask them for that.
I would also like, you know, just because I'm a teacher doesn't mean that I speak for all teachers, but when we're having things that directly affect the classroom, I'd like to know what teachers think, and not just the teacher who happens to show up at the board meeting, but all teachers. Like, are the teachers surveyed? Were they given the option of, do they agree, disagree, why? And so if we want to make policy based on, you know, the teachers are our front runners, they're people who are in the classroom every day, how does this impact them and their classroom? And I want to see that data. I want to know, how are the teachers feeling about this, to get a better gauge of really what is best for our students.
We can send, regardless of the decision tonight, we could send out a simple, like, one question survey on this one, and give that to the discipline committee next year.
Yeah, and even just like, I mean, the other ones aren't like big changes, they're just wording, but if we're having big changes, that's gonna impact students, greatly impact students and staff, we really need to know what the staff thinks about it.
Okay.
Not just teachers, but security and.
We can do it by role. We can
Yeah.
do a survey, and ask it for all staff by role. Okay.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
What's the motion?
What's the motion?
Oh, we don't have to vote on it?
Well, the recommendation, so I think you would make a motion,
Motion
To-
to remove it from the agenda.
Right.
You can amend the agenda to remove it, or you can motion to approve it, and then whether it passes or fails.
That's what I was gonna say.
What's the easiest one?
probably
Probably motion
motion
to
to approve
That's
and then
right.
pass and fail.
Yeah, and then vote.
Say, we'll have a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second?
I guess we had a lot of questions and comments, right? So roll call.
Mrs. Stiff?
No.
Mr. Kennedy?
No.
Mr. Edmond?
No.
Mrs. Lynn?
No.
Mrs. Guerrero-Numer?
No.
Mr. Bean?
No.
Mr. Coffey?
No.
Personnel report, 1 through 11.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Roll
Yes,
call.
I have a question
Roll call.
or a comment. I see in the packet that Ms. McDonald, Dr. McDonald, Miss, will be
No, doctor.
retiring. And so that saddens me.
Aw.
But
Can we not approve that?
I was told I have to put it in.
It's, at least it's in 4 years.
It's 4 years, and I have goals.
So, Well, thank you for all of your hard work during your tenure here, and look forward to, I guess, I hope, the next 4 years.
Thank you.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero Namir?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Student discipline recommendation.
After receiving and deliberating the information contained in the hearing officer's report, the Board of Education is charged with deciding, one, whether removing the child from his or her learning environment is in the best interest of the school, what the rationale is for the specific duration of the recommended expulsion, whether all appropriate and available behavioral and disciplinary interventions were exhausted, and whether the continued presence in school would either A, pose a threat to the safety of other students, staff, or members of the school community, or B, substantially disrupt, impede, or interfere with the operation of the school. The Board of Education must then convene into public session to formally vote on the motion to expel, if the expulsion is the consensus arrived at during the executive session. I make a motion under case number W222319, recommending expulsion until January of 2024 and placement at Lincoln School.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero Namir?
Yes.
I make a motion under case number W222324 to recommend expulsion until June of 2024, placement at Lincoln School.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Guerrero Namir?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
I make a motion under case number C222325 to recommend expulsion until June of 2024 and placement at Lincoln School.
So moved. Second. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero Namir?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes.
I make a motion under case number C222326 to recommend expulsion until June of 2024, placement at Lincoln School.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero Namir?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
I make a motion under case number W222327 to recommend expulsion until June of 2024 and placement at Lincoln School.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero Namir?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
I make a motion under case number C222328 to recommend expulsion until June of 2024 and placement at Lincoln School.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Stiff?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy?
Abstain.
Mr. Edmond?
Yes.
Mrs. Lynn?
Yes.
Mrs. Guerrero Namir?
Yes.
Mr. Bean?
Yes.
Mr. Coffey?
Yes.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Unfinished business. No. New business. No. More reports?
Oh, I wanted to do it last month, but I was not feeling well, so I was not able to be at the board meeting. I wanted to give a big thank you to Derek Martin and Marcus Days. They helped out at Cheney Manji for our staff and student game. The second year in a row they've done it. We wouldn't be able to put it on without them. We don't have enough staff to help do that, and our eighth graders love it. We actually raised over $300 for our eighth grade trip for our students who are less privileged, so without them, we couldn't have made it happen. So I was really appreciative that they came and helped.
Great.
I have one.
You have one?
So Workforce Services Division hosted a Pathways to Professions Expo where Joliet West and Joliet Central and Pathway students attended, and and actually some of the district staff members. So it was so nice to see the students engaged and just, getting to see professions that they don't normally see. So I just want to thank JTHS for supporting that endeavor, and it was really appreciated.
Thank you. It was a great opportunity for our students.
And I wanted to give a shout out to our Pathways social workers and teachers and all of our staff down there for the financial literacy workshop that they put on last week. And thank Midland States Bank. They sent a bunch of representatives. I was able to attend that and see what was going on. And they did a phenomenal job. The research that went into what they did in budgeting and teaching kids how to manage a family budget based on family size, and all the lessons learned about credit and different things was absolutely phenomenal. They should do it twice a year. It was great.
I feel like I recommended that, but anyway. Yeah, it was a phenomenal event. I just want to say Happy Women's History Month. I thought it was really awesome that JROTC came out today, and as they posted our colors, that it was all women. I don't know if you saw that, girls. That was really cool. It's also National Social Work Month, and of course, that's my favorite month as a social worker. I do want to say thank you, though. I know that you're not social workers, but sometimes it feels that our teachers, our counselors, our secretaries, our bus drivers, our security guards, our principals, our administrators, and of course, our lunch ladies, including my very own foster mom, who was my lunch lady, and then my college second mom, who was a lunch lady at 86. You guys just all together, collectively, are just like social workers to me too. So happy National Social Work Month. And also I want to say next month is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and I want to say thank you to Deb Clark from Joliet, our Joliet Child Care Center, for these pins and these bands, and then each bag came with a fact, and this one says, when children know their rights, they're less likely to be abused or neglected. That is true. As a social worker that works for the Will County Children's Advocacy Center, I will tell you, even though the DOJ kind of just changed the numbers to less than, it's 1 in 4 girls, they say now, used to be 1 in 3, and then 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused before they turn 18 years old. And that's with 10% on average reporting, so it's probably higher. One thing that we can do, remember, we're not investigators. We are merely, when we know something or we see something or we suspect something, we call 1-800-25-ABUSE. That's 1-800-25-ABUSE. And if it, again, wasn't for teachers and staff, secretaries, and all of you that do that work, you're our #1 reporters of abuse. So it's important that you continue to do that job. And I just want to say thank you for all of you that do.
I also want to thank the board for participating in the trivia. It was a really nice time, and
And a recount, I think we won.
Yeah,
but it was a really
stacked against us.
the board and many of our staff here volunteered their time, and it was a very successful event. It was sold out, and that money goes to grants and scholarships, and so I just want to thank everyone for their participation. It's always a fun event.
It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
All right.
And Lucille Ball looked great.
Yes.
So we have a public comments against.
Good evening, members of the Joliet Township High School Board and guests. My name is Grace Gonzalez, and I have worked as an office professional for JTHS for the past 17 years. As the AFT Local 604 Clerical Union representative at Joliet Central, today I am here to speak on behalf of our 54 union members. They sit across from you, as do their family, friends, and colleagues. On January 5th, during the Institute Day, Dr. Guzman welcomed back our staff after winter break, and her resounding message to the staff was clear and unmistakable. Relationships matter. As office professionals, we take great pride in our integral role in this respectable learning institution's daily functioning. We are deeply committed to the district and proud members of this vibrant, diverse community. We are often the first to interact with the student or parent and ensure that JTHS has a positive and inclusive school climate. We are the face of JT. We, as office professionals, are on the front lines addressing the concerns of educators, students, parents, and the wider JTHS community while performing our duties for our respective administrators. Beyond our daily work responsibilities, we often mentor our students, offering them a safe space when counselors, social workers, deans, or our teachers are unavailable. Our professional relationships with teachers are fundamental in maintaining a disruption-free learning environment for our students with our school district's daily substitute shortage. In addition, the strong partnerships we have forged with the community partners and vendors make JTHS a highly sought-after educational partner. Our unwavering commitment to the needs of the students and the district often requires us to go above and beyond our regular workday duties, ensuring that the administration, Pathways, Joliet Central, and Joliet West offices are fully equipped to provide necessary services and that essential tasks and projects are completed. As office professionals, we wholeheartedly support our administrators, teachers, students, parents, and the wider JTHS community. We want to continue establishing the work environment that allows this district to recruit and retain knowledgeable and dedicated office professionals. Negotiations are scheduled to begin on April 5th, and we invite the board to join us at the table. We have invested our time, skills, and energy in making Joliet Township School District 204 a success, and we hope you will invest in us too. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other announcements?